For those of you or people who don't know, because I actually don't know what CBD is, could you give us a little background on what CBD is?
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. So this is my other love for the last few years. So CBD stands for cannabidiol, and cannabidiol is part of the cannabis plant. So usually when people hear the word cannabis, they automatically start to think about getting high, right? So they start to think about I don't know how many of you remember Rick James and the song Mary Jane. They start to think about stuff like that. And there's so much more to that plant than just getting high, right? And so, so there are two speed. So I'll start off with some education about CBD because CBD is part of only one part of that plant. So think of the cannabis plant as this overarching thing. It's like the umbrella. It's this thing that's up here, right? And then the cannabis plant has two species. So one species is marijuana, right? And one species is tetrahydrocannabinol, which is THC. And that cannabis plant, though, so we only know about a few of the species of the plant, and I'll get into why. But so when you talk about the cannabis plant, you have THC on one end, and then the other part of the species is cannabidiol. And so the marijuana part of the plant is the plant that we think about: Mary Jane, weed, getting high, the part of the plant that causes the euphoria for people, um, causes the munchies for people, things like that. But then on the other end of the plant, the CBD part of the plant is about wellness. So usually one of the things that we say a lot when we're talking about CBD is a health without the high. President Obama started to recommend regulations about the plant, but it became legal when President Trump got in office. So President Trump signed a farm bill in 2018, which allowed it to come off the Schedule 1 drug list because basically cannabis has been considered just like marijuana. I mean, just like opiates, heroin, cocaine, amphetamine, all these different, all these different Schedule 1 drugs is what it was considered like. But when he signed the farm bill, it made it more of an agricultural commodity and it took it off the Schedule 1 list. But since it's done that, so since 2018, we now have the ability to do research on the plant. So now we understand much more about the health and wellness benefits of the plant. And so, so CBD falls there. Does that make sense? So you have the one part that is more about getting high, and then you have the other part of the plant that's really more about health. And I can talk about in a little bit about what kind of things that it can assist with.
Erica, is that the same plant or is that a different engineered plant, the one with CBD versus THC?
So see the CBD part. So THC can have CBD in it as well. So it's one part of that plant. It can have CBD in it as well. But what makes it different is that when you have THC, the part that makes you high, is much higher. So it's like 30% of that plant, 0.30%, I think is where it lies. When you talk about CBD, it's really coming from the hemp species. So it's not coming from the marijuana species. So, and then for CBD to be legal, especially in our country, it can't exist with more than 0.3% of THC in it. So you can have, we have to say it that way because, when you have these products, and I'm a product of the product. I have a company that we have CBD products, but we have pure hemp species, just only hemp. But the THC part has been removed. So we can't say that it doesn't exist. So we say it's 0.000% because it's been removed, right? And then you have, for it to be legal, it can have no more than 0.3% of THC in it. Not enough to make anybody high, but enough to address some of the issues that come up for people, that are using it for health. And I can talk about some of the things that people use it for. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. What are some of the health benefits of using CBD? I mean, I know the list is endless, but just to kind of go into a little more detail,
Yeah.
oh, it helps this, it helps that.
Yeah, so let me talk about that a little bit because a lot of times people think of CBD as a snake oil, like something that, well, how could it possibly help everything? How can it possibly do all of those different things? Right. And so we were born with the endocannabinoid system. And so you can take a look at this, you can look it up yourself because we have not heard a lot, many, I don't think probably most of us, if not all of us, never, we didn't take that in school. We didn't learn about that in school. A lot of our doctors didn't learn about it in school. But we have an endocannabinoid system that as part of that has receptors that allow us to accept that plant. So if you think about it as a lock and key system, it's kind of the same. If you think about if you're taking before I started using natural products, I was an Excedrin girl. I could have put my picture next to a bottle of Excedrin because me and my mom used to always use Excedrin for headaches or pain of any sort, right? So it's like if you're thinking about something like that, Excedrin, or Tylenol, or Motrin, or any of those kinds of things, how does it know where to go? How does it know what to do? Well, it has to connect to a receptor. So we have cannabinoid receptor sites in our bodies so if you think about it as a lock and key, so we are the lock, and the CBD or the cannabis product becomes the key. So it figures out where to go in your body because we have 10 receptors in our body from our head to our toe, right? And so that's how we can figure out your body wants to be balanced. It wants to find homeostasis. So it wants to figure out where to go. So all you need to do is take that product just like you would taking an aspirin. That aspirin has to figure out where you're having pain or where your head hurts or where your foot hurts, whatever it is. It's kind of the same kind of thing. So so when you think about that lock and key system, it allows you to understand more about how we can figure out how we can help with so many different things. You know what I mean? So that's one of the ways that it does that. But we have an endocannabinoid system in our body. And if you look up some of the research, I remember that there is a doctor that I learned about when I first got into this industry. He was actually a surgeon. His surgeon, if you want to look him up, his name is Dr. David Allen. And he's a he is a cardiac surgeon. And he has made the statement that the introduction of cannabis products in the endocannabinoid system has been more effective it's the most important regulatory system, more important than your cardiac system, more important than your reproductive, all the other systems that we learned about in school. That endocannabinoid system is more important because that's the thing that can save lives if you can just get the right key to that right space. So anyway, so we didn't learn a whole lot about that in school. Unfortunately, a lot of doctors now have not learned that. And I think it goes really back to the fact that the plant has been so stigmatized and it's still stigmatized, even though it's been legal since 2018. Even it's legal across all 50 states in terms of CBD is what I'm talking about right now. There's still a fight all over the country about some places have it. I think there are 18 states, I want to say, that have it legal recreationally, cannabis in general. And then some places have it legal medicinally for you to take it for medicinal reasons. And then, but it's kind of all over the place. And even though it's federally, it was signed by President Trump, the federal government still doesn't necessarily consider it legal. So it just doesn't make sense. All of these, it's just kind of all over the place, right? It's a very volatile industry. And I think a lot of that becomes one because it was so stigmatized in the beginning. And now that it's off of that Schedule I drug list, that's still what's in people's heads. So when you say, again, if I go back to when you say the word cannabis to people, they automatically think about getting high. And that's not what this is, so yeah. So Pam, you had asked about what it can assist with. Is that what was your question?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a loaded question because it can assist with so many different things. And so I'm going to say assist because I'm not going to make any claims that it's going to treat or heal or mitigate or any of those kinds of things because that would be a false statement, especially by the FDA, because the FDA has not legalized. They have not said, it's the federal government, so they have not said it's legal across the board. So just like a supplement, you can't say that, we know that some people benefit from the use of about melatonin, but they can't say that it works for sleep, because it has not been proven to say that it does. So when I'm talking about this, I want to make sure that that's clear, that I'm not saying that it's healing or treating or mitigating anything. What I'm talking about is testimonials or what we have heard that people have experienced. So I can tell you, and there is a lot of research. I think there are about 2,000 peer review articles that they've come up with since 2018 for people have shown that CBD or cannabis products can help with certain things, can assist with healing certain things, but that's not what I'm saying today. I just want to make sure that's clear, because I'm not a researcher. But you can look up, if you want to know what it does, you can basically put in CBD and anxiety. So I'm going to go to behavioral concerns first, because that's what I do. But CBD and anxiety, you will pull up a whole bunch of research about CBD and anxiety. CBD and sleep, you can pull up a whole bunch of research about CBD and sleep. Things about chronic pain. So there's some industries, like I was just reading about this earlier, just kind of preparing for some things that I have not looked at recently. So the Veterans Administration has come up, I think it's called the MORE Act. I didn't completely read it, but they have come up for protection for veterans, because veterans come back, they have pain, they have PTSD, they have, depression, they have all of these different symptoms. So they have pushed back on having their veterans get in trouble for using CBD or cannabis products, because they recognize that it does work, right? Because what was happening, so, a lot of people may recognize we've been in an opiate crisis for years now, right? So this opiate crisis has been going on for years. But what they recognize is that, there are other ways to assist people besides them taking benzodiazepines, besides them taking other addictive substances. And so you can build a tolerance to cannabis, but it's not going to be a tolerance to the point where it's going to kill you. Number one, there's nobody that has ever died from a cannabis related product unless it's been laced with something else, right? But you can't say that about opiates. Can't say that at all, right? And so, so I think that's, and I don't know if did any of you see, what is his name? Sanjay Gupta. Did you ever see any of his movies on weed? I think that's what it was called, Weed.
No,
Yeah.
I haven't.
You didn't see it? It's worth looking at. It's definitely worth looking at. I see you shaking your head. What do you remember about it? If I can ask you, do you remember anything?
What do I remember?
Yeah.
That he is pretty much for you recommended CBD for depression and not necessarily stimulation, but relaxation, and like you said, sleeping.
Yeah.
So I did have a question. So what's the most common CBD product? Is it liquid? I don't know what they have available, but
Kind of another loaded question there. It kind of depends. So let me say this too, though, because all CBD is not made the same. So please, please, please don't go to your local gas station, convenience store, Walmart, all of those things and think you're going to find this quality CBD product. So when you're going to search for CBD, you want to make sure you see a certificate of analysis. We call it a COA in our industry. The COA tells you exactly what's in that product because it's been tested. It's been third-party verified that it's a safe product, because you don't know where that plant has been grown. So you want to make sure that you're working with somebody where they know who their distributors are, where they know where that plant is being grown. So, because it's not helpful to you if you're taking a product that was grown in somewhere where it's mold and toxins and pesticides and all that kind of stuff in the plant or in their fertilizer or whatever it is that they're using to grow that plant. So you want to make sure that you are working with a reputable company. before you go use their CBD products. So I usually tell, people that I interact with, if you're going to go somewhere, ask them for the COA, right? And if they don't know what that is, walk out the store. Walk out the store because they don't even know where they're getting the products from. So to answer your question though, oh my God, there are tons of them. So I just said that I'm in the cannabis industry. I've been in the cannabis space since 2019, and I'll talk a little bit about me in regards to that space a little bit later. But there are tinctures, so just like a CBD oil, right? And so the CBD oil, you basically your tincture, you know what a tincture is. You kind of put it under your. I have a bottle here actually because I keep my CBD products everywhere. Oh, you can't see it though. There you go. A little bit. Can you see that?
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's a tincture. So basically, it goes underneath your tongue. And and so the CBD can be absorbed and kind of goes where it needs to go, so that endocannabinoid system kicks in, right? But you also have gummies, when the gummies can be used. A lot of times people are using them for, CBD can be used for inflammation in general. And if you pay attention to any of the commercials on TV for pharmaceutical drugs, I will guarantee you that 99% of them say inflammation. They say inflammation. Right. And that's what CBD addresses. It addresses reducing the inflammation in the body, because when you have inflammation, you have disease, you have pain, you have all of these different things. So that's one of the things that CBD does really well. But you can have gummies. There's some places that have suppositories. I don't use those. You can have smokables. You can have topicals. I use topicals all the time. You can have smokables, and sometimes people think about, oh my God, you're smoking. Well, it's very different from smoking a nicotine product in regards to what's in that product. Again, you want to know where you're getting it from. You want to know what's in that product and how it's been made, how it's grown, how that plant is grown. You can have water soluble products. My company has water soluble products, but basically, so I'll give you a little bit of a story here. So I have she's a colleague. I worked with her 30 years ago, and she found me on Facebook, and she's like, don't you do something with CBD? And because sometimes they would see me post something about it or something like that. And so she came to me because her mom had developed dementia. And her mom's dementia had gotten to, I don't know if anybody knows or has had experience with anybody with dementia, but my great grandmother had Alzheimer's. Right. So she started running away. She started having anxiety. She started having irritability. She started cursing people out, just not acting like her normal self. And so trying to get somebody to put something under their tongue and hold it there is not possible. You're not going to be able to get them to do that. So we started giving her a water soluble product for her mom. And the water soluble, she couldn't get her mom to drink anything but Pepsi. And so she started putting the water soluble in her mom's Pepsi. And by her report, those symptoms disappeared. She was no longer running away. She was no longer agitated. She was no longer anxious. She could sleep. She's like, I got my mom back. Amazing. Amazing.
So can I just ask a question? Because you have the one that you put under your tongue. So I feel like that I could ask this question a little bit, but is it, or do you feel like that it's counterproductive to have one that you can smoke? Because I feel like for me, regardless if it's helping you in any type of way, but to inhale smoke, which isn't supposed to be in our body, do you find that to be counterproductive? Just in your opinion, I'll say in my opinion, not to put you on the spot, but in my opinion,
Oh no.
I feel like it's counterproductive. So like, if I was to take CBD, it would be like the water solubles or the gummies or something like that, where I'm not putting, toxins, other toxins such as smoke, which we're not supposed to inhale inside of my body, just to have other symptoms cleared for me. So my question is, do you feel like that is counterproductive?
Yeah, that's not an unusual question. Not at all. Not at all. And so what I will say, and I will tell you that what I love about my company is that we have a large medical advisory board. Our chief medical officer is one of our founders. And she has given, she is also an obstetrician gynecologist. So she delivers babies. And they are in, the company is in the state of Illinois. And so she has gone to, she's now considered the expert in the state of Illinois about cannabis. And so they were asking her that question, like, how can you possibly give these products to your pregnant moms? Well, your pregnant moms are coming in with positive for THC, right? And so it kind of became harm reduction. So Aaron, you may know about harm reduction because it sounds like you have some experience in this area. But basically you're trying to figure out how you can limit the amount of harm that's being done. So, in that viewpoint, she would rather give that person a product that she knows is safe, that she knows has been tested. We have a laboratory called Green Laboratories in Florida. So we know where our products are made, we know where they come from, we know that they're tested, right? And so she gives her pregnant moms all of her products, right? Because they're gonna come up positive anyway. And they don't know where they're getting that stuff from when they're buying it on the street. They have no clue, right? And so to answer your question about, for me personally, and we have a lot of other people on our medical advisory board as well, pharmacists and psychiatrists and psychologists and all kinds of medical professionals. But to answer your question about me, so the great thing about smokables is that they work immediately. So when you take a tincture and you put it under your tongue, a lot of times you got to wait 30 to 45 minutes, depending upon that person's body, depending upon how they eat. Because if you're eating all the wrong foods, if you're doing all the wrong things, it can't be absorbed. But if you have to wait 30 to 45 minutes, it takes a while. Sometimes people don't have that amount of time to be able to wait for that product to start to work for them. So I will give you, for instance, I'll tell you a little bit about me. So I use CBD all day long. I've chosen not to use medications. And so I've never used medications for multiple sclerosis. I just chose not to. Right. And so I was more worried about the toxins from that than anything else. So I use smokables typically when the weather's bad, because and I'm still a therapist, I still work, I'm still employed. And so for me to be able to function and talk to my clients, if I'm in pain, I'm not good to them. I'm not good to anybody. Right. And so for me to be able to get through that point and deal with my clients or deal with my family without irritability, without me being, angry and all these different kinds of things, I use the smokables when I need to for that reason. It's usually when the weather is bad for me, but everybody has their own points in time. But it's also, going back to your question as well. So again, we do know smoke is of course not good for you. However, it's more about where that smoke is coming from. So, talk about nicotine. Yeah, so some of those kinds of things really make a difference in regards to that smoke, because you got all kinds of other chemicals that are in there. So right now we're talking about a plant. The smoke is not great. That's not the first thing I'm going to tell somebody to do if they want to use a cannabis product, especially if they have asthma or if they have any kind of respiratory condition. Yeah, let's kind of stick to the gummies or the water solubles or the topicals or somewhere else, right? But I will also tell you that our chief medical officer, one of our founders, she uses it for people who want to stop smoking, because that becomes a habit. Smoking is one of the hardest things for people to stop doing. I have clients that can stop using cocaine, can stop using opiates, but they cannot stop smoking. And so for you to get to a space where you can, kind of remediate that, if you can give them something where it's going to take their attention away from that and break that habit, it's more about the habit. It's more about breaking the habit.
Erica,
So-
I got a question on dosage. How do you figure a dosage for whatever you're applying the CBD for?
Yeah. So what we tell people is start low, go slow. Start low, go slow, right? Because because everybody's body is different. And again, it's a plant, right? So, and everybody, how you metabolize things is going to be different, right? So we do have a dosage schedule that we give to people if they need that dosing schedule. But really, it's like, so in terms of a tincture, for instance. So if I take, if when I started taking the tinctures, I probably started at 3 or 4 drops under my tongue. And then you can go a little up from there. So if 3 or 4 didn't do anything for you, okay, well, maybe do 5, maybe do 6. It kind of depends upon the person's weight, again, how they eat, what they do in their body. Because, we tell people that, CBD alone is not going to cure you. It's not going to fix you. You got to do other stuff, so like the exercise that we do on a regular basis. So you can't say, I want to, you know, um, reduce pain and I'm just going to take the CBD. No, you may need to stretch. You may need to do some exercise. Maybe you need to do some movement. You may need to do other things. But in regards to different products, so for smokables, for instance, usually people don't need more than 2 or 3 pulls on a smokable. You don't need that much CBD. You don't need that much CBD for it to get into your system to do what it needs to do. We usually tell people with gummies and things like that to take a half a gummy first. And then people don't want to listen. They're like, oh, that small thing, it can't possibly do anything to me if I take a full gummy. Yeah, don't start there. Don't
No,
do that.
don't start there.
But you got people, so again, it has to be absorbed, right? It has to go through your body. It has to be metabolized for those kinds of things. That's why the smokables come in handy. But for other products, they have to be absorbed. But what people do is they're like, oh, that didn't do anything for me. I'm going to take another gummy. Don't do that, because then then they're like, oh my God, it made me so sleepy. I'm so tired. You didn't follow directions. We told you to start low, go slow. So take the half a gummy, until your body gets used to it, right? Or figures out what it needs for, what you need from that plant. So I have been taking CBD regularly since 2017. 2017, I had a car accident, kind of threw my life out of control. And I told you I have chosen not to I don't treat anything for the most part. If I had to do, like a surgery, or if I had to do something that was an emergency procedure or something like that, it would be different. For a chronic condition, I have chosen to manage it with CBD or cannabis products in general. And so, so for me, because now I have been using it for so long, I literally take CBD all day long. I take the tincture, I take the gummies at night. I take the pain cream. I'm looking over because I got my pain cream. I got some of my products sitting there because I'm sitting down so often. Sometimes I need to use them in between my clients so I can get up and, function and move and do some of the things I need to do. But it really is based upon your body, trying to figure out what your body needs. So to answer your question, Dan, start low, go slow. Yeah, we have some recommendations in regards to based upon weight. And actually you can look some of these things up. I'm trying to think of, it's oh my God, which Cleveland Clinic. The Cleveland Clinic has a dosage on their site for cannabis in regards to how they think you should start for different conditions. MS is one of those conditions on it. But it could be lots of other things. So I didn't talk about the kinds of conditions, but I kind of wrote a little bit of a list here. Again, we have that endocannabinoid system, so it can go anywhere. But for behavioral stuff, it could be PTSD or chronic pain or depression or anxiety or insomnia, any kind of mood disorders. They have schizophrenia, even things like that. I have a lot of clients that don't want to tell their doctors that they don't want to take the medications because it causes problems with libido, or it causes, other, a lot of times when you start to take traditional Western meds, it may lead to another traditional Western med.
Mhm.
Just because of some trying to deal with some of the side effects, that just is one of the things that happens. And so I have a lot of clients that tell me I'm not taking that medication, because I just told you I work with people who have behavioral health and physical conditions, but a lot of people they don't want to talk to their doctors, but they also don't want to take the medications. So also just trying to educate them about that. But it can also help with things like hypertension or, obesity is a big one, right? A lot of people, we have a lot of clients who, especially younger people right now, who are coming in, especially after this pandemic. A lot of people have been home and eating more, not getting out as much, not exercising as much. Obesity has become out of control. So cannabis is one of those things that can help with obesity. It starts to turn that that white fat into brown fat so it can be excreted by the body. So it just does a lot of different things. So I encourage you, if you ever have any questions, to look up some of those peer review articles. Just put in CBD and whatever your question is about, whatever condition, and you'll likely find something.
I have a question. My daughter lives in Massachusetts, and they have dispensaries everywhere.
Everywhere.
So we've been in there. I've been in there. I went in once or twice, and it was just amazing. First of all, it's very secure.
Yeah.
But they have their list, and you can buy this for this, and it got really
Bartenders.
confusing.
Yeah.
This type of, I don't know if it was all CBD or some THC, but it was just different. How do I say? I don't know. It was just like different types of plants for different ailments.
Yeah.
Do they have that for CBD, or is it just like one broad type across the board?
Yeah, so that's where I was starting in the beginning, and I didn't get too much into it. But so CBD and THC are only two of the cannabinoids that we're familiar with. But there are at least 100. I think there are like 118 different cannabinoids in that plant that they've since they've been researching, right? But they all have not gotten to the point where they have been released as legal, right? And so, but they all do something different, right? So I know what you're talking about. When I started using cannabis, I actually started with my doctor of osteopathy. I see a holistic doctor. I've been seeing her for many, many years. She just retired. I want to cry because she's gone now. Gotta find a new doctor. But she started me on medical marijuana. And I couldn't use it regularly because I didn't want to, I had a hard time functioning, being able to think clearly, that kind of stuff. But I started going to a lot of classes on just cannabis. One of the dispensaries that we have here held some educational classes, which was really, really helpful because it also helped me to understand more about that smell that we smell. We're like, oh my God, that awful smell. Well, that smell is terpenes. It's called terpenes. And so those different terpenes that are in that plant, it could be lavender, it could be vanilla, it could be different kinds of things, different kinds of plants that cause that smell. But those different terpenes have a benefit behind them, right? So if you're using a cannabis product that, I'm just going to use lavender because I started there, lavender in it, then that may be a terpene that helps you go to sleep. Or if you are using a terpene that has, I don't have my terpene list over here anywhere, but if you're using something that can benefit, let's just say, I'm just going to say, it has other things in it like turmeric or ginger or some of those anti-inflammatories, then it's going to smell a certain way. It's going to smell because those terpenes are in that plant. So it's really, really complicated. So when you go into a dispensary, those bud tenders are amazing because they remember all that stuff, right? But they also know what, they're good because they can tell you what plant is going to help you. So like I will give another example where my husband has glaucoma and he's a truck driver. So he's not able to use any parts of the plant because he's drug tested regularly. So he can't do that right now. So he uses a pure CBD with all of THC has been removed, but he's waiting for one of the cannabinoids that he is able to use. What's it called? CBG, and CBG is helpful for people with glaucoma, right? So there's different kinds of cannabinoids that can help with different kinds of things, right? But if it's complicated. It's a lot of stuff in that plant. We just haven't heard about it all yet, but we will because now they're doing research on it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're kind of coming up on time, and we just really want to thank you. Well, does anybody have any other questions before we close out?
No. And we appreciate your time today to help explain to, well, anybody that wants to view the video a little bit more about CBD.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it because I do think it's important.
Should we get Erica's contact info?
Absolutely.
If you have a website, or if you have any way that people can reach out to you, if you want people to reach out to you at all, you can, give your information right now, and we'll actually tag it in the video, probably in the description, but if you want to, you could just give out your information right now.
So let's see. So yeah, people can reach out to me, and my website, I guess that's the best place for me to start. So Erica Zachary is my last name. Zachary is my last name. But the Wakana is the name of the company that I'm with now. I was with another company that was called New You, but unfortunately New You folded during the pandemic.
Oh,
Yeah, they folded during the pandemic. I think the great thing about Wakana is that we have so many different products that people have something to choose from. And so what I didn't talk about in regards to the industry, it's a growing industry in regards to not just health as well, but also it's in regards to the CBD industry is thought to be going to be about $40 billion by 2025, worth about $40 billion by 2025. I can give my email. It's empower, EMPOWER, LBD, Larry Boy David at gmail.com. That's my email if you have any questions for me. EmpowerU, LBD at gmail.com. And my website is CBD, no www, CBD for number 4, wellness.wakana, WAKANNA.com. So that's my website. But if you have any difficulty, you can email me. That's probably the better way.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on here and just educate us a little bit more, especially me, because I didn't really know much about CBD to begin with. But
Yeah. It's not weed.
Well, that's the
Not looking to
first
get high. Please spread the word.
compliment. That's just the first thing that you should say starting out, you know, just to calm people down. But we really do appreciate you for coming on here and just educating everybody a little bit. If we have another slot available, and if you have the time available, we would love to have you back on and talk a little bit more about the other health benefits, as well as the other things that you do, helping clients and things like that. That would be very educational for us as well.